Hello, I am Linda McGuire, professional musician, neuroscientist, and gerontologist. Now today I'm going to talk about music for children. And if you look at gerontology, especially if cognitive decline is in the picture, the brain reverts to a childlike state, both in functionality and in tissue degradation. It's like we have reverse aging in cognitive decline. What I'm presenting to you today is the power of music in children. And I'm going to present 4 songs, 2 of which will put a child to sleep in 60 to 90 seconds. And we're talking ages 5 to 6 to around 11 or 12, prepubescent, really. And at that point, the brain has not quite fully developed and is still developing. The executive function, which is in our frontal lobe, this area is non-developed in children, whereas the old cortex, the paleocortex, and the neocortex underneath, the brain, part of the brain that enables movement and emotion, is actually quite fully developing in a very gregarious state. It's only until the mid-20s or late 20s that the frontal executive decision-making, understanding of consequences, sometimes that takes a lifetime, but at least until the mid-20s is the average general rule for this. So we're going to look at what types of music and what elements in music activate responses, reliable responses in children. So I'm going to give you 2 songs that will put a child to sleep in 60 to 90 seconds, and I'm also going to give you 2 songs that I have used to march children happily, without complaint, up a mountain, literally up a mountain. So what happens, why that works, and what are the elements involved. The marching, activating music also works for conditions such as Parkinson's, where there are movement disorders, and the reasons behind music's ability to activate movement and to inspire behavioral changes and movement activation, working out at the gym, etc. Or on the other hand, we're putting the physiology to sleep in a matter of seconds, really. So join me as we explore the possibility of music to influence children in both these opposite realms of application. And of course there's a lot in between, but let's start from either end and work our way towards the middle. Enjoy. Today I'm giving you 4 songs. The first one has some very simple elements to it, and there's a great beauty and reliability in this, and I'd like to explain to you how to enable it for yourself and to make it work for your child. The first song I use, the main song I use, the example, is that wonderful song from Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star. This is a very well-known, it's a very famous song because it's so beautifully written. It has a simple tonal center. Da, da is the tonal center, but it takes a long time for the voice to actually get to that tonal center. That's one element, is that it kind of sings around home, which has a disorienting effect. It also is fairly arrhythmic when you're singing it as a lullaby, and so there's no real rhythmic aspect of it that will stimulate the heart to go in any direction whatsoever. So the heart rate monitoring is kind of disabled. So you have sustained resonance to draw the system into this passive listening arena without taking it in any direction or another through rhythm. Sounds a little complicated, but bear with me, it's simple. Another important aspect of singing a lullaby to a child is to be basically face to face with them. There's a lot of vibration that comes through your chest, and of course the direction of the actual air molecules that are actually moving when a song is being sustained and sung. And so the child getting at full frontal is important. If you're singing it to a child on its side or in its sleep, literally the facial tissue on this side does not get those vibrations, nor does the sternum in that area as well. Very sensitive face intake bone and tissue here, all along the sternum. Everything above the diaphragm that controls your breathing is important for vibrational intake. So that's the main idea, plus the words of this song. To a child, there are quite a few words that a child of that age, 5 to 6, 4, 5, 6 to 10, 11, 12, will understand. And so when you hit those songs, cognitive kind of blooms happen in the child, and that's good. But they're words that will send them into imaginary dreamland, dream state type cognitive activity. So they're very simple elements to this song, When You Wish Upon a Star. And the scientific rationale for this, if you look at preterm infant studies, the nursing literature is full of infant studies that show preterm infants respond very positively to the fingerprint of the mother's voice singing to them. And it affects their respiratory rate and increases their healthy respiratory rate, increases healthy heart rate, healthy blood pressure, healthy oxygen saturation, healthy sucking rate. And so females in particular are discharged earlier, 2 weeks earlier than non-sung to infants, and male infants are released about an average of 1 week earlier than non-sung to infants. So the power of sustained, organized resonance, particularly with the fingerprint of another human being, particularly of the fingerprint of the mother of the infant, has a great power in facilitating health. And that is done through physiological measures: heart rate, blood pressure, lowered cortisol, increased melatonin, which the sleep neurochemical, increased dopamine, which it helps with any sort of pain that's going on. So let's get to the music here. The 4 elements. When you're singing this song, it takes practice. You have to keep trying it. A lot of people say, I can't sing, but you have to try. One of the main things is blowing air through the system. Very important for this lullaby. When you wish. Do you hear all that air I'm blowing through? I'm literally moving air molecules that the child feels, literally. And when they feel that, their system is allowed to just, it's movement, it's vibrations, and their system immediately feeds into that. And in 60 to 90 seconds, you've got a child that's just the physiology has completely collapsed because of the power of the moved air, the unpredictability of where this musical line is going to go. It eventually, I think it's like 21 notes or so before it actually hits the home tonality. While these words are coming along that are flipping them into different cognitive realms. It's pretty simple. So, very important to blow air constantly through your singing mechanisms. Take as many breaths as you need to. You can practice it as well, but eventually you want to take breaths out and just lullaby your sweet child to sleep. Or nephew, niece, whomever. Even a child that you don't know will respond to music very positively. The universal language. Let me sing it for you. Ta is the home base. I will point to my finger when we get there again. And when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. When your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do. Fate is kind. Fate steps in and sees you through, and you wish upon a star. Your dreams come true. And if you are blowing enough air out of your vocal mechanism, that child will have, the eyelids will drop, and they'll just slowly put down what they're doing, and they will just sink into, their body will be in the sleep mode. And it's pretty hard to waken them up. They may still be awake. They may say, I'm still awake. And then their eyes will completely shut again. Or they will ask you to maybe sing some more. And that's okay too. Now your job during this is to sing the song, of course. Keep blowing air out. That stream of air, plus the non-rhythmic, plus those words, when you wish upon a star. Makes no difference who you are. They want to hear, those are words they want to hear. Anything your heart desires will come to you. To a child, this is magic words, promises. When your heart is in your dreams, they know what those words are. No request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star as dreamers do. Fate is kind. They know what kind is. What's fate? She brings to those who love, I love, a child is full of love, the sweet fulfillment of, sweet candy, their secret longing. Children have secret longings, you better believe it. And so these are promise, one promise after another. Like a bolt out of the blue, little activation there. Fate steps in and sees you through. The syntax makes a certain degree of sense, and the older they get, more and more these promises, more promises. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. So it's a pretty guaranteed step to get a child to sleep. What key do you pick it in? I usually pick my highest note. La 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 la. Of course, I do a finale. So I'll pick that highest note in my mind and then pick the key from there. But you can pick, when you find the key, it will come very naturally to you. You will have internalized the key that it's to be sung in. You can change the key if you find it too high. The main idea is to blow breath through, keep those air molecules moving towards the face and tissue and bones and frontal arena of your child's face. And really, it is a eye-to-eye kind of thing, except their eyes are closed. The reason I'm wearing workout clothes is because a child usually needs to get to sleep before the parent does, and the parent usually needs an hour or so to do yoga, relax, stretch, talk with their friend or partner, and to, you know, get their own bearings. And there are other music programs for that. So there's the simplest, quickest song to put a child to sleep in 60 to 90 seconds, to mediate the physiological response through music, to take a child away from 4 hours of intense tension to do all sorts of other things, to getting the rest and relaxation and the body restoration and repair that they need. So that's the ticket to putting your child to sleep, or any child to sleep, in a matter of seconds. Hello. We're still singing a song for children to go to sleep here. The next song I like to use is Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Again, it's the same concept as the previous tune, When You Wish Upon a Star. It has very interesting cognitive words, has visionary, what if, promises of a better, of kind of magical things happening, which really talk to a child's heart and cognition. The song itself establishes a tonality, unlike the When You Wish Upon a Star, but it's a great follow-through. Somewhere over once in a lullaby. Very important to blow air through your, usher air, roll air through. Really blow a lot of air into the sound. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. No hurry in between phrases, very arrhythmic, very freely sung. No, stay away from rhythm. One day I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the skies are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Low air. Birds fly over the rainbow, why then, oh why can't I, etc. And then it tags off. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I? So what the child relates to is sustained resonance. And that is in your airflow, that's in your sustaining the song. And so I had my nephew said, I said, what do you like about well, he offered, you know what I like about your singing, Aunt Linda? It makes my head buzz. Good. That's the idea. Energy, maintaining all the activity of child growth. It's all about energy and vibrations. Heat, for instance, is movement. A neural synapse, thinking, wanting to play those video games, or synapses, firing, 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 out of control, as it were. So what the singing voice does, especially when you're blowing those airs, the air's moving, and the sound also adds another dimension of vibration. And of course, we know a child of that age is picking up words at a very fast rate, and so we're providing very interesting words. Over the rainbow, there's a land and a lullaby, dreams come true, birds fly, rainbow, all of these wonderful cognitive ideas that they just, so as the vibrations are striking their auditory system and their facial bones and skin, these vibrations are provided in lieu of vibrations the brain would otherwise be generating on its own. That takes a lot of energy and activity. So we're displacing all of that activity, providing those vibrations so the child, this parasympathetic system, can take a break. We don't have to generate all that stress and anxiety. Take a break, and when we hear rainbow, we just fall into a rainbow. When birds are flying, we just fly into birds are flying. Because sustained, organized resonance of singing provides it for us. That's the idea. That's the ticket. 2 songs that will put your child to sleep in 60 to 90 seconds. Remember, lots of rolling air. Somewhere over the rainbow, la la la. It's more about the air rolling into moving these air molecules as much as anything else. So enjoy those 2 songs, enjoy the experience, and take control of your child's sleep schedule. And guess what it does for you? You're taking a breath, you're pushing that air, while you're rolling air out, air is being pressed, and oxygen is being pressed into your lungs, which is healthy for your brain. Your brain is being stimulated. And there are other tapes that I talk about how singing improves your health and status. So when your child is quite asleep, their body is asleep, their brain will follow. Mood and cognition follows action and behavior. You have time for yourself to prepare yourself for a good night's sleep. And that's what it's like. You don't have to go to sleep with the child. On the contrary, all this wonderful oxygen is enabling you to create your own journey towards and routine, to fulfill your own routine. Otherwise, a child will match your physiology. A child is very paired with its parent. So if you're still awake, they're still awake. And so this is how you can take control and usher your dear child to sleep, so that they can have a good night's sleep and have a good day tomorrow. You can take care of your needs, have a good night's sleep, and have a good day together. And peace and blessings. So how do I do this? What songs do I use, and how do I get children activated? Again, we start at the bottom of the mountain. They're all enthusiastic about I don't know, not too far up. They're tired. They don't want to go anymore. They're, they want to turn around and go back. And, there's no real reason to do that other than that's just the nature of the beast, is to, you don't push ahead unless you have to, unless there's an emergency, unless there's, and evolution has designed us for that. So how does music stimulate good exercise and that goal of climbing that mountain? 2 songs I use. I guess the first one I'll start with is one that's very popular with children and of all ages. It's an African song. It's an African celebratory song. It's called Siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Those are all the words you need, and it just repeats and repeats. It has English versions that literally, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. And again, this is sung in choirs, elementary schools, wherever. It is not a religious piece, it's a celebratory piece. But the music itself, we are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching, woo-hoo. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, woo-hoo. We are marching in the light of God. Siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Siyahamba, hamba, siyahamba, siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. Siyahamba, hamba, siyahamba, siyahamba Kukanyekwenkos. We are singing in the, etc. We are praying in the light of God. We are shouting in the light of God. We are whatever in the light of God. And you can, it's one of these things that repeats and repeats and repeats. They love to sing it. They love to march to it. It propels the system forward. How? Let's talk about that. There's rhythm, of course. There's a 1-2 march. But, you know, there are a lot of things with the 1-2 march that's like, all right, can you turn that thing off? We're tired of marching. Doesn't happen with this song. Not with children. And why do children respond so predictably? Their frontal lobe is not developed, especially between the ages 4 to 5 to 11, 12. And they're mobile. They're growing at a very fast rate. They're learning to get around. They're learning to coordinate motor, all that motor stuff. They're very emotional. They're emotionally volatile. Their feelings are easily hurt. They get very happy, or, you know, they respond very predictably to environment. So music organizes the environment to escort that predictable outcome. And so this is a great way that it happens. This song works through rhythm, it works through textural text and cognition, and rhythmic unpredictability, and we'll talk about that. And so, and of course the language, the new language, siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. Ooh, they're learning a new language, and that's kind of fun. They love that, and they will sing it and march to it very predictably. So, first of all, we've got the words "we are marching," so it's very decisive. That's the base verse of the English version of it, is "we are marching." So they, you are continually reminding it's a marching song. But the rhythm of this piece is very interesting, and I'll just sit in my chair as I move my feet. In our brain says time to move, time to walk, and once we start walking, we have a pattern generator in our spinal cord that keeps our legs going. So in other words, I can be walking and thinking, oh, I've got to do this and that. I wonder what that person's thinking. Making this list, figuring that out. So I can multitask while I'm walking. And the brain, as a rule, you can't do two things at once. You really can't be paying attention to that and doing a math problem at the same time. You're either doing one or the other. You're either not paying full attention to that or not paying full attention to that. That's been pretty well established in the science. But walking is different. It's the migratory aspect of who we are. And so this pattern generator gets initiated, but it still responds to outside influence, particularly rhythm and syncopation in this case. And so, and it's the same principle that you use for, in part, for conditions such as Parkinson's disease, where there's motor impairment. So 1, 2, we're marching, and we usually start on our dominant foot. So if you're right-handed, you're going to have a right-handed downbeat. We are right, left, right, ta, 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 right, left, right, ta, right, left, ta, right, left, right, okay? So I'm going to stick with that because I am right-handed. But if you're left-handed, it will probably left, ta, 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 left, ta, ta, left, ta, ta, left. So what's going on in this song? So we have offbeats, syncopation. And so we are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. So those syncopations come before the beat. And what that does is when we hear that syncopation come before, our leg has more energy to stomp on that next beat and keep going than were it on the beat. Here's the music on the beat, a lot different. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. My legs are getting bored, is what's happening. Here's the difference when you have syncopation. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. Do you see that? Nyen kwen kos. So when you hear that, and before the beat, your leg goes to meet it, and it propels you forward. That's one thing that's going on. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. There's all sorts of movement that is triggered with that syncopation. Anticipatory syncopation, back phrasing as they call it in jazz. Siya hamba kukanyen kwen kos. Siya hamba. Hamba, siya, hamba, ooh, ooh. What's going on there? It's skipping beats, which gives us the joy and the service and the job of filling in those beats. Siya, hamba, siya, hamba, ooh. And then, of course, we have a high note, which has gently stimulates a frontal lobe, and I talk about that in other videos. Sia hamba kukan yen quen kos. That held note, you have 1, 2, 3 to add in there. So you've got syncopation, anticipatory syncopation that spurs you forward, and then you have some missing beats that you get to fill in. It's almost like your legs are singing the song. And very predictable to keep kids moving and marching and getting them up that mountain. Sia hamba, hamba, sia hamba, ooh, sia hamba kukan yen quen kos. Sia hamba, hamba, sia hamba, ooh, sia hamba kukan yen quen kos. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. And of course, they're singing at the same time too, to themselves. They love that little whoo-hoo. They love it. Children love to sing. And there's a perfect little note for them to do. So that's the idea. Anticipatory beats, missing beats that our legs fill in, because there's a strong marching pulse in this. And it activates this internal pattern generator. Music has a great power on subconscious processing. And the words are fun. See ya later. You know, the kind of things that they don't make a conscious connection to, but they're fun words. See ya hamba, ha is the most wide open vowel. It kind of incorporates all resonance of the face. So there's slight tissue stimulation. Sia ha ba kuka hamba kuka. That's a cuckoo. Kuka nien quen kos. Nien quen kos. That's a little bit of a challenge for them, but they love that challenge. It's just fun words to sing. Nice little, beaded bracelet. I often say string of pearls. It's like a little beaded bracelet. Sia hamba kuka nien quen kos. We are marching in the light of God. Now children, I've looked at the neuroscience of God and spirituality and religion for many years, and children who are raised without religion, they will find a God. They will look for a God. It's a natural thing to look for something bigger than us, to take care of us. That could be life, genetic expression, the universality of with the Big Bang, the expansion of the universe. We're a part of that. So God is a spiritual value for me and not necessarily religious, as I speak of it in my films and such. So that's the idea. We are marching in the light of God. And of course, children have a little higher register than us. I'm giving it to you in a kind of a low adult tonality. Si hamba kukan yen quen kos. Si hamba kukan yen quen kos. That's more of a child's range. So keep that in mind and march your children up the mountain with a song. It's a beautiful way to get them activated. And I've seen children come to the top and they're full of cartwheels and everything else, just loving life. Enjoying their march up. It preoccupies their thinking and their complaints, redirects their complaints to a song that keeps their feet moving, keeps that pattern generator in the spinal cord that directs the legs. So try it. Okay, we're done. All right, our last song is the activating song, Walk Together Children, Don't You Get Weary. It's a Negro spiritual, and it kind of goes on. It's a long song. It's kind of challenging to sing, but it has great value to push children forward in movement, particularly marching them up the mountain. It's another song I use to march children up the mountains. And so it has an imperative beginning. Again, the syncopated, anticipatory syncopations rhythmically that kick their knees forward, basically. Energize their legs to match the unexpected fast note. The words are important. The pacing of the song is important, and there's some cognitive values in the performer that need to be kept in mind when you're performing or using this with children. It starts off with an imperative. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. So what's going on there? All I know is there's a great camp meeting at the end, picnic, right? So that's kind of a cognitive value. There's all the syncopations, and there are a lot of consonants on the offbeats. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk together, children, etc. Repeats itself. Now, as a performer, you have to take a lot of breaths. You have to sneak breaths to keep up the pace of this piece. And you have to be in pretty good shape, too, to sing it while you're walking. So eat your Wheaties and warm up. Stretch those legs, whatever you need to do. And so, walk together, children, don't get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Gonna walk and never tire. Again, you've got sustained notes telling us it's very imperative. We're going to walk and we're never going to tire. Never. Never tire. Wow. Really? And doing gonna walk and never tire. So we're filling in the beat with our feet, right? After we've been initiated with those syncopations. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk. Gonna walk. Okay, we can take over now. Tire. Oh, walk and never tire. Walk and never tire. Why? 'Cause there's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk together. Right? So there's long verses. Walk together, children, don't da-da-da. And then we have so there are imperatives, the rhythmic aspect, the held notes that we have a job to fill in. A lot of this happens at subconscious levels, even with adults. They find if they want to move, that this music will have them move more and more and more, and that's okay. But once our frontal lobe develops, once this frontal arena develops, we think, well, wait a minute, I'm not letting any song control me. I'm going to sit down and just listen. And but so if you want to move, this song will feed into subcortical, paleo, older parts of the brain and generate that movement. But with children, this area has not developed, so it feeds very quickly into these older areas, these subcortical areas of the brain, including the cerebellum, and this outer kind of shell, this outer layer is cortex and new areas of the brain, particularly in the front. And that's why we're so smart and make all these plans and create industrialization and all that sort of stuff. But it's actually the frontal area that we do all this thinking in is really a very small amount of the neurons of the brain, maybe 5, maybe 7%, probably not even that much. So and let the other areas of the brain work and operate is great. So we have walk together, children. We have sing together, children. Gonna sing and never tire. Oh, sing and never boom, boom, fire. Sing and just that pattern generator is just on a good steady roll. 'Cause there's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Oh, walk together, children, don't you get weary. Ta 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 ta. And then we add, you know, little single new words. Gonna shout and never tire. Oh, shout. And I love the arrangement that I use in there in our example that I did a recording with a good friend and colleague, Jane Kay, pianist, a few years ago. And walk together, children, don't you get weary. Sing together, children, don't you get weary. Shout together, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting, great camp meeting. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Now that's when in a performance the performer has to have, and this is what works for me, and I think it's as a singer, when I have a thought, it folds into the matrix of sound. So as I'm singing that list, once the pattern generator is, you know, kind of rolling out, I want those children to just run up to the top and do cartwheels and, you know, just enjoy themselves and have a memory of a lifetime through. And that's what, you know, they will remember that. These children do remember these songs. They do remember marching up the mountain with these songs. That it's a very positive experience. That's what you want to give to a child, right? And it doesn't hurt for yourself either, does it? So when you're singing it, there's a great camp meeting, and in my mind I'm imagining scores of children just running past me to, you know, the great camp meeting in the promised land, you know, or a picnic or whatever. They're running through a field, and that enables the pacing in my mind to deliver the cognitive intention and the motor intention to them. There's a great camp meeting, great camp meeting. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. And all I can see in my mind is just scores of children just rolling past me in joy, and when I'm thinking that, imagining that, that's pretty much what I find happening with the children that have been marching up this mountain. So two songs today, two to put a child to sleep in 60 to 90 seconds, and two to march children up the side of a mountain as long as it takes to get up that mountain. And the explanation as to why these songs work and how you can bring them to full practical outcome through vocal technique, understanding of the musical elements, and delivery of those elements without hesitation, and understanding that the few things that you do to bring those songs to life will enable and escort the intended mood, cognitive, and behavioral outcome in young children. Thanks for listening. Enjoy.